Hi, it's Michael Kerr here, presenting Small Business Banter. A healthy micro and small business sector means a successful economy and a more vibrant society. Small Business Banter is about helping regional business owners better prepare for current challenges, but also for the next stage of business success. I'm Michael Kerr, founder of Kerr Capital, advisors to business owners. Each week, I interview a fellow small business owner or an expert, and they share their stories, their lived experiences, the wins and the losses, and their best advice to help you, the listener, get the most you can from your own business. Small Business Banter is brought to you from the studios of 104.7 Gippsland FM and is heard across Australia on the Community Radio Network. And thanks also to Kerr Capital, supporters of the show. Welcome into another edition of Small Business Banter Community Radio and Podcast. Today, very pleased to welcome in Yas from Circonomy, which you might otherwise know as the world's biggest garage sale. So welcome in, Yas, firstly.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today. As
always, I'm terribly excited about chatting to business owners that operate under very different models of ownership and about sharing their experience. It's so great to have you on. I know you've got an incredibly intensive week. It is now Circonomy, but it was world's biggest garage sale up until not very long ago. And so you're in the middle of a pretty hectic period. So really appreciate you taking time, yes.
It's my pleasure.
What we're going to drill into today is your experience as a business owner across a lot of different facets, employee, licensee, business owner, founder, mentor. So you've done a lot of stuff, and but we want to drill down on your experience in growing Circonomy via a partnership with Officeworks, and particularly also earlier days your experience of getting out. I think it was in between businesses, taking a family gap year, recharging, refreshing. They're the sort of main themes. But do you want to give us a little bit about your background, please?
Yeah, sure. Well, I realised the other day that it's actually been 30 years since my first job. So there's an age you can approximate. But I was a pizza delivery driver originally while at school, finishing year 12. And in hindsight, I realise now, and probably about 10 years ago, I realised that Kerry, my manager, was actually my first mentor. So to go into pizza delivery in year 12 and have someone that really understands and acknowledges your drive and passion is a real game changer. It completely changed the trajectory of my career and, in fact, my entire pathway professionally in the workforce. Instead of going to uni, which I thought I would, I ended up taking on a permanent full-time role as a manager of a Silvio's Dollar Pizza store at Ipswich in 1994. So, that was a good trajectory. And probably from then it was the paving pattern for my career as what I call now a real entrepreneur. Like, I think from the moment I was the manager of that store, I was treated like and encouraged to act like an owner. So I actually feel like I've been a business owner for 30 years, and it's just been through this enablement of leaders who have seen something in me and believed in me. And I really do believe that small businesses play a big part in birthing our future business leaders, whether they stay in our businesses and be our entrepreneurs or go to their own businesses and become entrepreneurs. So they
sustain most local communities. And you call them a small business. They could be a mutual. It could be a social enterprise. Could be just a garden variety small business. But yeah, you're absolutely right on that.
Yeah, and I think there's that. What I like about what you just said is there's this beautiful authenticity that no matter how big you might become, if you stay small in your mind, connect to your customers and totally engage in what I now call customer intimacy. So it's evolved from customer service. then to customer experience. Well, now we proudly call it customer intimacy. And when you had a love heart logo for your brand, it's really easy to talk about feelings in business, and it doesn't sound as crazy. But if you can just imagine humans, we are all one person, and we are someone at home, and often we leave that very real person at home when we come to work. Well, I'm more about how do you bring that whole human to work and bring your whole self, warts and all, flaws and all, cracks and crevices and all. And so for me, I think small businesses are a big enabler for that. And I'm unapologetic about the fact that I'm far from perfect. I fail every day, and providing the team around me acknowledges my imperfections as much as their own, then it can usually be a really harmonious evolution of small business, traveling their trajectory to create jobs and community.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of other things you've done, but I do want to pick up on that comment, that small business ownership mindset that you had. Now, not everybody has that, but we need more of it. Because when these we'll come back to that, but maybe it was innate for you, maybe it was learned, whatever. So you started in that pizza business. I think you went on to in AV, audiovisual technology.
Yeah, AV, audiovisual. I went and worked for an amazing company called Video Pro. It's a Queensland owned and operated business. They've been around 40 years now, and I started there, in the late 1990s, maybe 97 or 98. Again, still a real young 21-year-old, excitable, energized, driven woman in a male-dominated industry where I realised that
you came out of another male-dominated industry as well, right? Pizza.
I know. I think I'm just constantly attracted to these male-dominated industries. I think even as a founder, female founders are rare.
Yeah.
But look, I think what I love is I was brought up to never think that being a female was any less nor any better, and that we just were all equal. So I think I just always saw myself as level, and I had amazing male mentors at that business that, again, act like an owner was one of the things that was constantly said to me. And I remember, I'm a real I just say a lot of things, and then I like to set myself challenges. So if I say it, I have to actually deliver on it. And what I love is I remember having to calculate how much market share we had at the time in schools for audiovisual, and I went and had to calculate manually via these reams of paper how many sales were made to schools. And when I found out the answer, and it was maybe like $100,000 or something, I don't know at the time, but it was a really low number. And they said to me, "Okay, what's your budget? What are you going to sell this year?" And I said, $1 million.
10x increase, yeah.
10x, it's totally in my blood, right? And I thought, $1 million sounds impressive. I could do $1 million. Anyway, in the first year we did $1 million. So, and then it just grew from there. And I think because I was so supported and honestly always championed, and I'm quite intense and I have immense energy, and it can either energize or exhaust people. It doesn't usually do one or the other, like anything in between. But I just had people around me that were already legendary at their jobs. So for me, I just felt like they were the beacons of light that I could constantly evolve my own skills and learn from. And I was thrusted books in my face, and I read them and I acted on them. And I just felt like I had this amazing lived experience education by doing the doing rather than just reading the theory. And that for me has been a big part of my learning style that I've enabled and just owned.
And then, it is highly energetic. I love it. So then I think that there's a couple of other positions or experiences you've had that's going to semi-complete the picture. One, you're actively involved as a mentor and as a SHEO activator for women global.
I am.
So that we can come back to that as well. So that I'd see maybe where that came from with kind of starting where you did in those couple of very male dominated industries and seeing the potential and probably having a family environment that encouraged that. So then and then certainly not the end, but the most recent one was starting at the time, world's biggest garage sale as a social enterprise, and then getting to a point where there was this alignment between yourself and Officeworks to you can tell us the history of world's biggest garage sale, why you got started, what it was all about. Like, I love the idea that that the small business isn't necessarily constrained by the owner or whatever the constraints are, but you've kind of developed this wonderful partnership between big and small. So tell us about what is now called Circonomy.
Yeah. Look, what I love about this is the journey of World's Biggest Garage Sale actually started in 2013. I was still employed at the time. I was in a business and working for somebody. And what I love is that I was also a triathlete, and I was, we were all trying to raise money for charity at the time. And so I was baking cupcakes and doing all sorts of things. And
but not eating them as a triathlete in training.
Oh, no, we ate them. We train enough. You can eat whatever you like when you're a triathlete.
True.
It's great. But what I remember happening was I could see people getting maybe a little bit tired of my baking. And I thought, how do you raise money without asking people for money? Because I was really driven to support cancer research. My mother had breast cancer at a very young age. It's very close to my heart. And I thought, got to make money. How do we make money with all these other charities asking for money? Surely there's a better way. And I thought, well, I'll just have a garage sale. I'll sell all my own stuff that's sitting idle and dormant around my house, and I will make a few $1,000s and give it away. So when I told all my friends I was going to have a garage sale, of course I called it the World's Biggest Garage Sale, created a Facebook page back in 2013, set up a Facebook event, and then I went back to my old Silvio's days, which is now Domino's, of course, and I letterbox dropped my neighbourhood to tell them about this garage sale. And so
while you were doing a bike training exercise or something.
Yes, while I was training to ride my bike to Townsville, actually. So I think I like to juggle lots of balls, and the garage sale was really exciting. I thought it was a cool name at the time, and we started to fill the garage so much that we couldn't actually have the garage sale in the garage anymore. And so I think partnerships, this is an important story. Partnerships for me, doing business that isn't about yourself, is the way I like to do business. I like to think that anybody that I like to work with in business is going to get as much out of doing business with me as either their servant leader or their salesperson or their relationships manager, whatever it is, the role, as I will get from them. So I'm not looking for a deal as in a transactional value. I'm always looking for the relational value. I care so much more about the stickiness of how do humans really connect and do good. So when my garage was chockers, I had to get all this stuff from my garage to this hall down the road because we couldn't have the garage sale in my garage. So I rang Mini Movers at the time and said, look, we're having this event. It's charity. Can you please help us out? Can we get a couple of trucks and loads and some guys or girls to help us move it all in one foul swoop rather than me doing 50 trailer loads, which was just going to cost too much time and kill all my volunteers and friends. So Mini Movers said yes on that day and literally moved everything for us in 2 trucks to the hall. And we set it up with Domino's pizza for dinner. And we did an all-nighter that night, a whole bunch of us, and we ended up opening up at 6 a.m. the next morning and sold $15,000 worth of stuff in a single day. And all I could think the whole time, and I was literally sitting on the toilet with $10,000 stuffed down my pants, and I was like, oh my gosh, imagine if we did this properly. That's all I could think. Yeah. I wasn't celebrating the awesomeness of 15 grand. I was thinking, gosh, we could do so much more if I actually spent some real proper time on this. So
did you go 10x again and say I can do 150 next time?
Total 10x. So I thought to myself, how's that for irony actually? Because the next year I took a year off I would take a month off my job every year for the next couple of years to donate my time to pulling together a garage sale.
Yeah, okay.
And the second year we did 60 grand. The third year we did just under 90 actually, almost 100. So I've rounded up. We wanted to do 100. We didn't quite make it. But that was the year that I decided, A, to go around Australia on a family gap year, and B, the plan was to come back and do another garage sale, but we skipped it in 2016. And then in 2017, I came back on the back of a trip I had to make for work. I was working for an employer at the time, and all I could think was the garage sale work I did and what I could see for circular economy and for businesses and consumers globally in this reuse area was so big, I had to tackle the problem. And so I quit my job, went all in, no plan B, no business plan, and I literally just started the business officially in September 2017. It's almost 5 years to the day.
Yeah. There must have been some underlying confidence in yourself that you could make it work, I'm guessing. And on today's edition of Small Business Banter Community Radio and Podcast, Yas in from Circonomy. You were just about to start talking about the genesis and probably day one of, Circonomy.
Yeah, day one was interesting because I quit my job because someone said to me, you've built a business, you're making all this money, you give it all away to charity, which is fine, but look at the underlying challenges that you're solving for businesses and consumers. And I started to do a lot of research around circular economy, around charities, around all these different enterprises that played in the secondhand space. And it's funny because I was working for a company at the time, a tech company, and I had to go over to And while I was working for that company, and we can segue into this shortly, I was traveling in a caravan around Australia, working full-time and fully flexibly for this business long before COVID. So that was kind of how I was working. And on the back of that trip around Australia, I had to go to Infocom in the US, which was in Florida that year. And I thought to myself, I'm going to be in the US at the same time as this Rotary Club garage sale is held on Bainbridge Island off Seattle. So I said to my boss, I'll work at Infocom, I'm going to bring my family, we're going to do some of the worlds, and then I'm going to go and volunteer at the Bainbridge Island Rotary Auction and Rummage Sale. They had been doing this garage sale on this tiny little island with 24,000 people for almost 60 years. It was about 58 years at the time. All I thought was, I'm going to go tell them we're the world's biggest garage sale, be really authentic and tell them how we've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars and how I want to learn from them and bring it back to Australia and help continue to grow what we did. But what happened was the 10 days of volunteering there just completely transformed my mindset. I got to experience it like I was a resident, and they treated us like we were, a bit famous. It was kind of cute, but they actually treated us like we were a part of their community. And we could they were so welcoming and shared everything with us, their experiences, their highs, their lows. But what triggered it for me was probably going all the way back to my business acumen, was that I was taught from a young age. 24,000 people lived on the island. It took them, say, 10 days, 2 weeks to pull this garage sale together. On one day, thousands of people shopped, and they raised $579,000 in one day. And all I thought was, oh my gosh, they have 24,000 people. We have 2 million in Brisbane. Surely we can do $1 million one day in a world's biggest garage sale. That's all I could think, is the brain just went into this multiplier mode. And I took our experiences plus their experience and just came back and literally quit my job.
Right. And was their motivations for doing what they did for 60 years? Like, was it part community event, part recycling, part fundraising? Is it?
Yeah, all three. Exactly, the collision.
Yeah.
And also bringing community together.
Yeah.
There's volunteers who are 5 and there's volunteers who are 90, all coming together on a 2-week mission to raise money for this island to save products going to landfill. And it's so funny because I got to hear stories of products that were sold over and over and over again. And the circular economy was alive on this island.
I was just thinking the same thing on an island that, goes from one side of the street to the other because, now they've got a need for it. Yeah.
Well, one guy told me his wife has bought the item that he keeps donating at least 4 times over the last 10 years. All I wanted to know was the data. I thought, imagine if there was traceability on these products and we could understand the owners and see where they're going and understand which products have longevity and which ones don't. They sell cars. People donate cars.
Yeah.
And it's just mind-blowing. So that energy was ignited in me and I came back and just thought, this is a no-brainer. We have to do this here in this country. And so that's kind of the beginning of World's Biggest Garage Sale. And then I was fortunate to, navigate my way through a whole bunch. We did another event. We did $150,000 at our first official garage sale, which of course was 10 times the first 15 grand, which was really exciting.
Very neat.
But I knew we could do more. I just knew that there was more to it. And I knew we couldn't be a charity. I knew we had to stay a small business. And I knew we absolutely needed to have social enterprise and impact at the heart, because we could not fully commercialize and become, I suppose, a version of anything else that's commercial out there. And we couldn't be a charity because it would have been just too constricting and restricting, because we were already helping charities. We needed to be that more agile player in the market that could disrupt and erupt, but grow, not an enterprise that could, sit at the top of the pile, but an enterprise that could capture everybody and take us all on the journey so that the rising tide would lift all boats.
Yeah, that's where that social enterprise or variations on that model, it is because full on free enterprise, you've got whoever you've got to account to, shareholders, and there's can be quite singular. And then at the other end, just straight out charities or not-for-profits do wonderful work, but they've got funders and there's a lot more, I think, hierarchy and structure in the way things are done. So as you said, nimble, agile, inclusive, purpose at the forefront. So
yeah, and again, unapologetic. I suppose in a lot of ways, it really came to the forefront for me to understand myself a lot more. I think that the biggest work I've done over the years is not actually in the business. It's actually been on myself and accepting my strengths and weaknesses. Mine was the report card that said, Yasmin talks too much in class. Yasmin is too loud. Yasmin, you can't be in the choir because your voice is just not, blending in with everybody else. You're too much. You're too big. You're too bold. You're too, all these different things. And I actually think we all live with labels of too shy, too small, too weak, like whatever the things that people tell you are, you actually might be some of those things. But I always talk about the B2 movement. Like, I want to be too much because that's my strength. I want to be too loud because someone needs to speak up. I want to be too fast because someone has to be at the front running the race faster. And that does not make me better than anybody else that does the opposite. Too slow has strength. Too quiet has strength. And I'm probably quite tired of this being too of all these things being a negative thing. I actually want to convert it into being you. Be you, that's your strength. And I own that as my strength. So I think that resolve of accepting me has been a big part of me owning my lane as a founder and being able to say, well, yeah, I'm going to speak up. And yes, I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to then back it up and execute because I'm good at that. And then the things I'm not good at, I'm going to wrap around this amazing team of people who are so much smarter. They fill my black holes and cracks, and they then help me. They poke and prod enough to challenge me to change, because change is actually the constant that we need to connect to mostly, because World's Biggest Garage Sale today is not what it was 5 years ago or even 9 years ago. And I'm extremely accepting and excited by its evolution. Yeah. And that would be something for me with all small business and big business owners, any business owner. Change is the constant, and being able to transition the change is actually what can make or break you.
Yeah, and it's where there's the handbrakes can come on for the and sometimes it's a good, if an owner, you talked about awareness, and I'm intrigued as to, with all of what goes on, where you find the time to reflect and do all that, and come back and say, look, I want to do things differently. But that when this is a conundrum for founders in small business, you get to a point where it's outside of your control, and you either gear up and you bring in some other people, or you decide, and I love this, when it's serving its purpose for me, and I'm happy with that. And yes, everyone could tell me it could be bigger and more efficient, but if you're conscious, that word's really important. If you're conscious about that, and it works for you, good on you. You know, that's what we want. But then it is this kind of next stage where, as a founder, recognizing that you maybe don't have everything you need to take it, that there's going to be an opportunity lost if we don't take it where it could go. So that's where letting go a bit is a real battle.
It is. It's actually the number. If I can teach anyone anything through my lessons learned, is as a founder, I will not lie, and I would rather be really authentic about it. It is very, I call it gritty, shitty, and unpretty. Right? That it's not awesome. It's awful at times, and it can be both the hardest and most hellish thing you ever do.
Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for today, and that's where we're going to leave that really engaging personal discussion with Yasmin Grigaliunas, the founder of Circonomy, at least for today. Over the next 2 weeks of Small Business Banter, we'll play out the rest of the discussion. Next week, Yas will dig down on how she made that partnership with Officeworks happen, warts and all. The week after, we'll finish off with some really personal insights that have shaped her approach to business and that she would share in the spirit of openness with other business owners in encouraging them to take their business to where they want to take it. So that is all for today's episode of Small Business Banter. I continue to be inspired, bringing you small business experts and other small business owners and hearing their stories. If you want to listen to any past episode, jump onto your podcast platform of choice and search Small Business Banter. There you will find a diverse and fascinating collection of small business owners and experts openly discussing and sharing their experiences. For any of the links, resources, or information we've talked about on the show today, or to contact me, please head over to smallbusinessbanter.com, or you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. And it would be great to have you tune in the same time next week for another episode of Small Business Banter.